I know I've been missing in action in the last couple of weeks, but I have an excuse. I've been working a lot on the Brawler's Alley magazine, and if you don't know about it, this is an e-magazine that I'm publishing since last year, and all issues are free to download. If you want to take a look, just click in the link in the description to check our site. Now, with the video. I said a couple of weeks ago on my Helvetis review that I wasn't really a big fan of single-lane beat'em ups. Well, I guess we can say things changed since I played that game and now I'm actively looking for games that play like it. So this week we will talk a little about 2D games that are available for Nintendo Switch and other platforms that I've been playing recently. But before I forget, hi, I am Savino, and this is The Flying Kick. Track to Yomi was released last year to everything except the Nintendo Switch, but finally this year the little console was granted a port of this game. Unfortunately, the port wasn't perfect at launch and was filled with some problems that were finally solved after 1 or 2 updates. The story in this game is pretty interesting. You are a kid in an old Japanese village training with a sword with your sensei when the news that your village is being attacked arrives. Your sensei runs to help, leaving behind his katana, and you and your little sister decide to take it to him. Sure, as you can expect, things go south and your sensei ends up dead and the leader of the invaders vanishes in the dust. After that brief playable intro, which will act as a nice tutorial, the game jumps in time a dozen years and now you are a Ronin seeking revenge for those who once attacked your village. The story is pretty great and I will actively avoid spoilers here because there are a lot of twists on it that honestly would ruin half of the game if I showed it here. I will also show images only until a certain point in the game to avoid spoilers, so if some images repeat in this review, it's to avoid them. Graphically, I don't even know what to say. This game looks amazing. As you can see, the game is all presented in black and white with a fixed camera and a grain filter over everything. The lighting, the scenarios, everything is impeccable with lots of small details, cities filled with people walking and chatting, crop swings in the wind. It is all amazing to look at if you could really see something. While the game is gorgeous and artistically one of the best I ever seen, this is not a game to be appreciated on the Nintendo Switch, not in portable mode or even on the TV. On portable mode, the small screen will be one of your enemies. Since the camera is fixed during combat, sometimes your character will be so far away from it that all you will be able to see is a small pile of pixels moving up and down. Sometimes it will be hard to defend yourself since the enemies are so small that will be hard to see when they're attacking. More than once I died in this game because I couldn't simply see what's going on. On TV things get a little better, but not so much. You get a bigger image, but the resolution is very low. The amount of aliasing will create almost the same problems that you face on the small screen, making everything hard to see when they are too far away from the camera. Honestly, it's a shame that the Nintendo Switch isn't a tad bit stronger because games like this end up not being so good to play on the little machine. The game is playable here and looks gorgeous, but it looks way better in any other system. When it comes to the sound and music, well, the size of the Nintendo Switch isn't a problem, and what we got here is amazing. First, all voices from the game are in Japanese. You can change it to English, but come on, why would you do that and ruin the authenticity of the game? The Japanese actors are amazing, conveying a lot of emotions in each sentence. Even smaller NPCs, which you only cross once in the game, carry a lot of emotion in their lines. Some don't even have lines, they are just crying in the background so convincingly that I started to think they kidnapped members of the actor's family and are holding them at gunpoint. It's really impressive the dedication of the actors in this game. When it comes to the OST, the game also does not disappoint with some nicely made Japanese-inspired music. I'm not a huge connoisseur of traditional Japanese songs, but I like what I heard here. Flutes, strings, and light drums will accompany you, creating an amazing mood when combined with the gorgeous presentation. But there won't be music all the time here. In Track to Yomi, many times the environment sounds will be the only ones you will hear, especially during combat. This is interesting because in games like this, more often than not, you will have a change in the music to something more action-oriented, while here, the music simply fades away, leaving you only with the sound of the wind and the screams of your enemies. And honestly, this works better than you can imagine. Now let's talk about the gameplay and combat. When I said that Track to Yomi was a single lane beaten up, I lied. Well, sort of. Track to Yomi will keep you in a single lane when you're in a fight, but when you are not, the game changes its character movement to a 3D plane. Here, you'll be able to move freely in the world, exploring the many places the game has to offer. This is actually an important part of the game. While not in a fight, you can explore your vicinities looking for items, ammo, and upgrade for your character. You'll also be able to find some collectibles that have a story behind them. While it's interesting to read, it's not mandatory. And you will also find NPCs that, when not crying desperately, can give you more bits of the story and the world around you. And exploring can be rewarding not only because you will get extra items, but because you can abbreviate a lot of the combat if you pick the right direction to go. Some of your encounters can be shortened by traps that, when activated, can dispatch all enemies on a certain scene, and they are very fun to watch. The game has a few puzzles here and there that will halt your progress, but nothing too complex. Mostly is a collection of symbols that you have to put in a certain order, or a tree that you have to bring down to make a bridge. For the combat, what you have here is pretty simple but effective. You have a light attack, a strong attack, a block, and some throwable items that you will find during your exploration. You don't have a jump, and while you can jump automatically during the exploration part, there is no way to do it in combat. Here, you will start with a simple attack, and you will learn more combos as you progress in the game with scrolls you can find, or learn from enemies some new move. There is nothing too fancy here, just your basic combos and counters that you can expect in a game like this, but while you will have a lot of useful moves to finish your enemies, the game takes a more realistic approach and you won't need too much to kill your foes. A few strikes of your sword are enough to finish them, and if you time it right, you can even perform a few finishers that will speed up your encounters even more. You can also use some range attacks, starting with a kunai, then getting a bow, and finally a hand cannon that I don't remember the name of. But even with all this equipment, don't think your quest will be easy. While your enemies can be killed with just a few hits, the same is true for you. If you blink, you're dead. Parrying and blocking will be extremely essential here, and honestly, it is basically how you will do. The combat boils down to waiting your enemy to attack, parry, and counterattack. Sometimes you will find yourself surrounded by enemies, and while the situation can be deadly for you, your enemies will respect you and never attack you from behind if you're already fighting someone else. Sure, you can change places with your enemies with a block move and leave all your foes on one side of the screen, but there's no need to worry about that most of the times. The only type of enemies that you should be aware of here are the ranged ones that can strike you from a distance even with your back turned to them. The game also has a few bosses encounters that are extremely fun to play, and some of them can be very challenging. They have something of supernatural, and while it can look out of place at the beginning, it will all make sense as you advance through the story. They are the most interesting enemies you will find, asking you to use everything you learned so far, and differently from the common foes, they don't die with a few hits. Here you have to put to good use your dodges, parries and counters like no other moment in the game. The bosses can be pretty brutal and any mistake can cost you a life. Not that this is really a problem, because you always have a save point right before the boss, but this does not take away the adrenaline of these encounters. Track to Yomi is a very interesting game. While it's hard to classify it as a beaten up, it's more a narrative game with exploration and some combat. I think a lot of you will enjoy this game for what it is. Unfortunately, the game isn't really that good on the Nintendo Switch thanks to the small screen and the underpowered hardware. The game was made to be played on a bigger screen and in higher resolution, so you can enjoy every detail. And while the combat is great and the controls are responsive, it's kind of hard to keep going when all you can see are a couple of pixels clashing with each other while your energy is drained because you are not sure what pixel you are. I recommend the game if you enjoy 2D combat, Japanese culture, or are a fan of old samurai movies, but not on the Nintendo Switch. The game is available for PC, Xbox and PlayStation, and you'll be better off with any of the ports. If the Nintendo Switch is your only option, I can still recommend it, but I warn you that sometimes you will curse Nintendo for not releasing something a bit more powerful. And that's it for the video, guys. I hope you all enjoyed this quick review. I will try to be back this Wednesday with another 2D game that I think is worth a look at. And other than that, I hope you all have an awesome day, and remember, keep it up.